Were you over at Ken's open house?
Yeah,
I missed you. I was there earlier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I saw this picture.
Yeah. You're here.
Am I okay?
You're right here. But we're only gonna have to, so you'll just, you can listen to her. Don't really need to watch her.
I see, yeah, I can always peek over on
Yeah, you
yours,
can always
that's
watch
what I've done
Yeah.
before,
Yeah,
and it seems to work out okay.
You can always watch mine. Really, really, really want it. How are you today, Derek?
Good, just feel like I'm finally kind of up for air at work. I think I had a proposal that we had in an interview last week. We haven't heard yet whether or not we get selected for the job, but I'm hoping, you know, that we did.
Yeah.
For sure.
Hey,
Hey, how are you today?
hey, how you doing? Oh, Susie left, that's awesome. I was like.
She left it. She's like, oh, I'm like, let's just print it for her, please.
Thank you.
Print it and he can sign it for you. You get on okay?
Thank you, Susie.
Thanks.
Hi.
He was pulling in.
Susie got the name. I swear I pulled it off of something, because I'm like, I don't know what her name is, and pulled it off of something, like, someone.
Maybe mine
I think
auto-corrected.
maybe yours auto corrected that, because I swear, I'm like, I don't know how to spell it, so I took it from an email that someone sent to me, so I'm like, oh, that must be right. Yeah. Fix it, and Susie got it right for the actual ingredient.
Yeah, that would have been bad. I double checked it.
Kevin, do you want to speak tonight?
What?
Are you gonna speak tonight, or are you just?
Oh, no, I didn't watch.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. Okay, just want to make sure.
Yeah.
When you leave.
Tomorrow morning, and the flight leaves at 7 AM.
Oh,
SFO.
out of SFO.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, an early start, obviously, to get out there in time. Yeah. Hopefully avoid some traffic though. Yeah. I guess.
Yeah.
Are you gonna take a shuttle?
You must be loud.
No, we're
Yeah,
gonna
I
drive.
want to, Michelle, that's your seat right there next to Bobby.
And then, but then we get into EC like at, 3 o'clock.
Oh, it's all right, girl.
At 4 o'clock, rush hour traffic in Virginia.
Really?
Then we come back on Friday, next
You're
Friday.
here, it's okay.
It's a SFO at
Oh, well.
4:15.
goodness, yeah.
So I'm like, yeah.
You'll really get a lot of that traffic on the return.
We came in, we had a 6 o'clock flight to New York out of Mexico. And so we had to be there, before something, because we parked.
No, we had an issue because we started late and so it didn't sync up right, so, so yeah, so I had to
New York
now.
at 2:30.
Right,
So, yeah.
So then, yeah,
We're,
and we
we're,
took
we're
the
making,
air
we have to
train
make
and
sure
the
we
subway.
started on time, because if we
Yeah,
start late, it
right.
didn't work, and so.
It's good.
It was a little bit of an issue, so,
Because
but what I did
the
was do,
session and all the.
kind of do the
Traffic
backup and then I
Yes.
take the recordings.
So
Yeah,
we're staying out in
It's-
Virginia for 3 nights.
today, like, if I can start it on
Down
time,
right down at the.
then I know that it's working.
DC on.
But the board
Monday
had
night.
closed session and so they
We're
really.
gonna involve like national archives,
But we're
like.
trying to make sure that doesn't happen.
And then the next, we have like the 12 o'clock train to Midtown, Manhattan.
Good.
So we're staying at the Marriott Marquis for 3 nights.
Oh, wow, that was fun too.
Yeah, right in Times Square.
Oh, you don't have to.
Yeah, we're in DC.
To the nice neighborhood.
DC area, 4 nights.
Yeah, yeah.
You have to go.
Where'd you
I
go?
don't know.
Oh, good.
Yeah, this is like family.
Oh, it's family.
Yeah.
In the big parking lot?
One of the end vacation. Come back on Friday.
Talking about where Ken's about. Yeah, no, I parked
And
over
I told Nicole, like, what do you want to do?
big parking lot.
I just relax.
With the open and rocks or whatever's in there. I parked there, I was walking around. Oh, okay. Yeah, I just walked straight back. It's not a bad walk. No, no, it was good. And I stayed for maybe.
Now, is it direct flight right now, suppose?
Yeah.
And it's well on the way back.
A lot of people
Oh, yeah,
went.
Expert and stuff like that, but you're on the flight for a long time. though.
It's gonna be a long time, yeah. Like going as what's weird, it's like
And
5 and
it's really
about
nice.
5 minutes
It's got a
going
nice
out there,
little
there's like
box.
6 and
And-
15, 6 and.
But there were a lot
Fighting
of
the winds on the way
And
back
then
generally.
The chamber had an event.
That jet stream is kind of coming west to east, so you probably won't
On the invite?
on the way there.
Probably, the chamber had an invite.
Hopefully, I think
for
it can take off one time, you know.
40. Back to back events.
Another at least.
I mean, I didn't go down there, but.
I took out at 6:05,
And then we.
looking at rain in DC, like
Then you can get
this
home and.
Saturday and Sunday,
Sure.
but other than that.
Someone got
At
fed.
least it's not like that,
Yeah.
it might be 85 and it might be, 60 or 58, just bring like shells.
Yeah, not too,
Yeah.
It's not gonna be.
it could be kind of hit or miss, I guess, this time of the year too.
Yeah.
So you never know.
Well, I was looking at their pictures, like getting the rain and
Oh.
now, so it's like.
It's,
Was it a downpour or just?
no, when we were there, it rained. It didn't rain the day we got there and it didn't rain the day we left, of course. But the other days it did, but we came prepared. And it was, it wasn't a big deal. I mean, we've been there several times, so it's not a big deal, but the big, huge storm that flooded the subways came in 2 days later after we
Not
left.
the best time to go out there.
So it was.
Lucky
Central
you
Park,
avoided
the
that.
subways, yeah, it was a mess,
Hi.
but
Thank you.
it's good.
Yeah,
We should have fun.
no, I haven't been back in years, so I'm excited that.
Oh, yeah. Well,
But I
it's-
told, Nicole's never been, but I told her, like, we're gonna have, you and I are gonna come back, and it'll be a different trip, like, this is
Yeah.
like,
Yeah, you need to go.
we're doing the statue, we're doing Empire State
Oh,
Building.
man.
Oh, what kind of word, yeah, that'll be fun.
Are you gonna walk down to where you are? You can take the High Line and walk the High Line.
It's gonna be, we were gonna take wanted to take the subway, I wanted to take the subway down to Battery Park, but that's what we're catching on the ferry.
Yeah, okay. That's easy.
Michelle's got a Metro card that you can use. You have to pay the extra $1 for it.
$2.90.
Then you.
Really? It's $2.90
From now you just put your credit, you can tap your credit card
I was at.
And then just tap it when you,
and then you just tap it going in. And on the way out, it's.
Yeah.
I do have a Metro card I can pass on. Save me money.
that's what, so it's just, it's all like,
It's all,
I
it's.
meant to look that up.
So,
They're gonna be upgrading part that way too.
yeah, it's.
Yeah, the cars
You
actually.
can put it on. You can have your card on your phone, or you can just tap your card going through.
Yeah.
It's pretty.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
They're so kidding, the stuff that
Okay.
New York's
Right.
been doing for 20 or 30 years, and now finally out there.
Yeah, you need the Metro card.
Really, it's like, once you take the subway and you come and you drive BART, this part sucks, you know?
Oh,
It's
yeah, it's a
terrible.
completely different experience.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you can't, subway, you can hop on a different line.
Yeah, you just have to know, yeah, you have to know.
You have to know where to go. I
Yeah,
guess.
they have good maps and good, you know.
Okay, just so that we have a couple minutes, but I'm gonna hit record just so that everyone- This is my backup recording,
Oh, yeah.
streaming to YouTube, but it is my backup recording.
We
Thank you. Great. Yeah. Nice to have Lila here. Is that how you pronounce your name?
Yeah.
Lila?
Yes. Her last name was misspelled on the agenda.
It's not Nikolovich?
Yeah.
It's
so-
Nicolich.
Nicolich.
Nicolovich.
We added an extra LI, it was autocorrected.
Or VI, I think.
VI or something.
Nicolovich. Okay, good.
Sorry.
That's an over-reported.
I got it
right on that.
Yeah, that'd be good. Got it right on the permanent one. And Osa is joining us by Zoom,
She's right behind you.
and she's behind me, so. So Derek,
Yeah, I'm just gonna.
you can watch it.
Yeah. Maybe what you should have is a mirror over there. Yeah, you can just kind of makes the room look bigger too.
Susie, do we have any cards for public comment?
Do you not?
No, I have.
Thank you.
It's 7 o'clock.
Yep, right now, okay. I'm gonna call to order the meeting of the Board of Directors of the Pleasant Hill Recreation and Park District. It is Thursday, October 12th, 2023. This is our regular meeting. Information about how members of the public can attend our meetings and address the board are included in our agenda. Of course, members of the public are welcome at all times, and we truly encourage participation from the members of the public. Let the record show that we have roll call, that all directors are present this evening. And Director Morse, would you lead us in the Pledge of
Sure.
Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Item number 3 on our agenda is the portion of our meeting for public comment on any item not on our agenda this evening. Are there any of the members of the public present here today who would like to address the board on any subject not on our agenda? Seeing none. Susie, do we have any emails?
No emails received.
Okay, Michelle, any hands raised?
No raised hands.
All right, we will close public comment then and move on to item 4, reports and presentations. Starting, of course, with the introduction of Teen Council ex officio member Lila Nicolich. I think I got that right.
Nope, you just did.
Kat, are you going to introduce her or?
Yes, so this is Lila Nicolich. Lila did attend the teen center in middle school, so she is well versed in the activities that we offer. She is a junior at College Park High School and also a member of the leadership class as the junior class treasurer. She was chosen and appointed by the school to represent the school as our ex officio. And you guys are in great hands because she's going to do amazing things. So she has a little report to give you.
Thank you, Kat. Appreciate it.
Also-
Lila, welcome.
Thank you. Also, I'm involved with Block CP, which is like a sports program in the school that helps get spirit up, and I also do varsity cheer and stunts. Okay. This week has been a very busy week because we have homecoming tomorrow and the dance on Saturday. We've also had 3 senior nights this week for flag football, women's tennis, and women's volleyball. The theme for homecoming is Barbie, and we've had a great spirit week. The spirit days include career Barbie, sporty Barbie, Motion Doja Casa House, which is like Western theme, Pink Out for the school day, and then Malibu for the game.
What is Pink Out?
Pink Out is just like pink all over.
Everybody wears pink?
Yes,
Boys
because
and
Barbie, Everyone.
Everybody?
everyone. And then our flag football team has been doing incredibly well, and it's their first year that we've had flag football. The girls' golf team is undefeated, and both men's and women's water polo has done extremely well. Furthermore, women's tennis, women's volleyball, and cross country have been fighting. The cheer team recently had a mini Falcons clinic. There was over 70 kids from the ages 5 to 14. They cheered on the sideline with us and performed at halftime. The next game after homecoming is our Pink Out game for breast cancer awareness. And we're gonna have the pink fire truck, which is signed by breast cancer survivors that have completed their last treatment. And then choir had their first performance, I want to say 3 weeks ago. I'm also in choir. About 3 weeks ago, and then next Saturday, we're having our Bella Notte performance, which is like a dinner show, and we're singing songs in Italian and just like songs from like Italian Americans like Frank Sinatra and Dean Martin and stuff. And then I'm gonna reach out to band and
Don't even
drama.
know those people.
Well, Frank Sinatra and Dean Martin have great Christmas songs.
Yes, it does. They all do.
The whole Rat Pack. And then I'm gonna reach out to band and drama for the next meeting. I haven't had a chance to do that. And then I talked to Mr. Honey today about
That's the first.
the principal of College Park about the anonymous tip line. And then last year, our anonymous tip line was like a Google form, and you like sent in your concerns, and I went to the school and like the administration dealt with it. But this year, it's a district-wide thing, and there's an app that students can get that's called See Something, Say Something, and they can anonymously like talk, like report something, like whether it has to do with bullying or like other stuff, and it goes straight to a national helpline or to the police, and the school gets notified about it. And then also, teen council starts on Monday. We have 15 middle school and high school students this year, and I haven't attended a meeting yet because it hasn't started yet, but I'm very excited. Or is there anything else that you guys would want me to report on about next meeting?
Or if anybody has any questions
Or
Let's start with questions here.
Do you have any questions?
Okay, a couple of questions about your report.
Mhm.
First of all, you mentioned flag football, and you were doing it kind of in the context of girls' sports. I have heard that girls are now playing flag football. Is that what you're referring to, or is this a
Yes.
boys' team or what?
It's a girls' team.
Girls, okay.
Mhm.
So you're playing schools around
Yes,
the area?
we played cheered at one of the games, actually, one of the flag football games, and it was Alkalani's and Brayton Christian that they played, and I know they've been playing like other schools like Campo
Uh-huh.
and stuff.
Is there like an official league?
Yeah.
Yes.
There's 4 leagues.
4 leagues?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. That's awesome.
Mhm.
That's really awesome. Okay. My second question has to do with the tip line and whether students are involved in evaluating any of the tips that come in. Does the school district like keep the student leadership informed about what sorts of things are being reported, the bullying, get input from team leaders about how to, handle or manage any of this? Just wondered whether there's a role for the students to play in this as well.
There's no role for students other than just reporting, but we had like during RTI, which is like our time to do like homework, just like in the class every Wednesday and Thursday, they played like a video on the screen that was like what to do when someone's bullying or like how to like respond to that stuff.
Do you think that students should, just in understanding, from your perspective about these, the tip lines and how, maybe leadership can, help make a difference in the environment or the culture of the school, that it would be, good to involve students?
I think it would, just to like, so everyone's like more aware of like situations like that, so kids feel more comfortable at school. Cause I know school can be very challenging for some kids, cause everyone's, brought it differently. So some people think other stuff is okay, and some people don't. So it's like a very like difficult thing like to like deal with. So I think if everyone's more aware of like things, then like the school would feel like a more comfortable place for students.
Yeah, I would hope that would be something that the school district would recognize, that there's a great resource here to help manage and prevent some of these things that get reported by involving students. So anyway, you can obviously see you're articulate and engaged, and just even your expression of being able to look at things, knowing that people come from different perspectives to look at things is, I think, a really healthy thing, for us to hear from the teens. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Right. So Lila had asked if there are things that we would like to be reported on this year. You kind of hear from me, some of the culture things that I'm interested in maybe getting some reports on how things are going. Is it smooth? Are there, strikes, are there, objections to things, sort of, that kind of thing. I have some interest in it. I'm not saying you should dominate your report with, those kinds of things, but it does show insight, I think, that what the leadership is doing at the school. Yeah. Anybody else have any things you'd like to hear from? Keep the door open if we have some things that we'd like you to, but we are delighted to have you.
Thank you.
Sorry, the pay isn't more.
It's okay.
But we have worked on that a little bit, but yeah, it's not the greatest. But anyway, you are always free to leave after your report if you've got homecoming things to prepare for or whatever. So I don't want you to feel like you have to stay for some meetings.
Except tonight, she has an item on the agenda.
Yes, I have one more thing to do and then
Okay.
I'll go out.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to say, as a general rule, don't feel uncomfortable doing that. On the other hand, we love having you stay and kind of get a glimpse of what local
Yeah.
government's a little, about and what the roles of us as community leaders and how we deal with our responsibilities as well. So you're obviously welcome to always stay.
I'll definitely stay longer for some future meetings.
And you're always welcome to provide your input as well. As an
Okay.
ex officio member when we're
Absolutely.
discussing things that are of interest to you and your peers.
Okay.
So, but tonight she does, she and Kat are gonna present your, one of your items on your agenda, so we appreciate that, so.
So this was a report. Do we open this for public comment or just move on to?
We
culture?
can open it for public comment.
Do we have any public comment? Members of the public who'd like to address the board on this subject? No, Susie?
No,
Michelle?
emails.
No, okay, good. Then we'll close public comment and I think wrap up by just really welcoming you. We're very, very delighted to have you here.
Thank you.
All right. We'll move on to 4.2, the report from the general manager, Michelle.
Yeah, thank you. I included a written report in your packet. I wanted to just add a couple of things to that report. One, just a reminder that listening session number 2 is tomorrow at 1 p.m. at the senior center. I believe the chair and vice chair will be attending that. So if you can make that. I just wanted to also say the first session was held last Thursday. It went well. After the listening sessions, I'm going to provide a summary for the board on just kind of the highlights on all of those. And we'll use that information in future meetings. So just wanted to highlight that. And then I also just wanted to make an announcement that due to the current events around hate speech and Zoom bombing in some of our neighboring cities, we are going tonight's going to be the last night that we're going to have Zoom commenting. So people are going to be able to view our meetings on Zoom, but we're not going to do any commenting. And so I will send something out to the public to that effect. They'll be able to watch the meeting. They won't be able to comment via Zoom at this time. We're going to revisit this in the beginning of 2024, but I believe that that's the best course of action for us at this time. And so that is what we're going to move forward with. And if any of the board members want to have a conversation with me offline on that, I can do that as well. But I just wanted to make that announcement for anybody who might be on Zoom tonight, as well as I will send out an announcement. So, and then I also wanted to say, I know that Vice Chair Vinson has graciously and Tom Bradley have graciously said that they would go to the Creek and Watershed Symposium, so I appreciate that. So we will have 2 people there. So
I might be.
and you might be able to just let us know because there's a cost associated with it, so we can do that. So, but yeah, but with that, I'll take any questions.
Now that is the day after the end of the program. I guess our end is on Tuesday.
Right. Yeah.
It'll be your end on Wednesday. And then this will be the next day. So just.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. The program I'm referring to is the Special District Leadership Academy that, as Michelle's report announces, many of us will be attending it and just it makes it for a long week. But anyway, I think it is awesome that both board members as well as senior staff may be attending and be able to report back to us on how that might integrate with things that we do ourselves. Any questions of Michelle from the manager's report? Okay, thank you. Any public comment on that?
No.
Okay, seeing none from the public, seeing none from the audience, nothing in writing. Michelle, any hands up? Nope. Okay, close that. And thank you very much, Michelle. A very nice comprehensive report. Appreciate that. Let's go back to Consent calendar. Lila, this is the portion of our meeting where a number of items are listed, oftentimes where we just are sort of either routine or there's no need to really pull them up and have discussion about them in order to approve them. For example, this evening is to approve bills to be paid. So I will generally ask if any board members have any questions or comments of staff with respect to anything on that agenda item. No, seeing none, we will entertain a motion to approve the consent calendar.
I'll move approval of the consent calendar.
Thank you, Bobby. Any second?
I'll second.
And seconded by Vice Chair Benson. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Item 6 are action items. The first, so we have 4 action items this evening. First is to adopt a resolution declaring October 22nd through 29th, 2023 as Red Ribbon Week. Thank you, Susan. Way. And I think that's Lila, while you are here.
So I'm just gonna introduce Katrina Hunt, Program Manager for Youth Services, and Lila. As you just met Lila as our teen council representative, they have a request to make, and I'll let them make the report.
So that week that you mentioned, October 22nd to 29th is Red Ribbon Week nationwide, which is an anti-drug campaign, Healthy Life Choices campaign. So we had traditionally done something for Red Ribbon Week pre-COVID and haven't picked it back up, but we want to. And we were also reached out to by the Community American Pride and Purpose Project. A youth advocate from that organization reached out and asked if we would if the board would do the resolution and we have some fun activities that we are planning with all of the youth programs from Kids Stop and the Teen Center. And we think that it will be good to bring it back and educate some young people in our community about other healthy choices besides drug use. So, anyone have any questions?
Lila, did you want to say why this is important for the board to, do you have any comments as to why this is important for the board to adopt?
I think this is very important for the board to adopt because drug use is a big problem nowadays, especially like vaping and stuff. I know it happens a lot at our school and it affects kids' brains and like development growing up. So it's just not a very healthy thing. And I think it's good to make people aware of the consequences.
At school, is there a groundswell to join Red Ribbon Week as well?
You'd have to check leadership, I'm not sure. I'd have to check.
They usually do. The leadership team usually does. I know they have in the past. So
We have not in the past 2 years.
yeah, well, COVID times are different.
Yeah.
I know pre-COVID is very different than.
Yes.
I know the elementary schools definitely do ribbon week activities. Some of the middle schools, the teen center is planning on doing a education about specifically fentanyl because it is such a big topic right now. And then we are going to do a photo contest amongst the teen center kids or any teens in the community that would be interested in submitting a photo of something that they do as an alternative or healthy choice instead of drugs. So it's actually called a natural high photo contest.
Well, I think that all of us can applaud the request and certainly support it. As a public agency, of course, we care very much about the health of our youth. And if this engenders conversations that help people think twice about it, or think about it maybe for the first time. And anyway, that is, I think, a very important conversation to have. So I think we would all be very proud to wear red ribbons that week.
Well, we have some for you.
Good.
Anybody else have any questions? Or no?
Thank you. No, I just wanted to say I've seen a number of postings from Mount Diablo Unified about fentanyl awareness types of programs for parents to get educated on that and some of the dangers. So happy to support in that way as well. So that Ribbon Week.
Okay.
Just had a question. Yeah, I was just sort of curious what kinds of activities were being thought of and what the collaboration or what how the external group is going to work with the
So
council?
they were waiting to find out what, like if we did what they requested. And then we were gonna connect after tonight's meeting and see what their ideas were on collaboration. So I don't know that yet, but I can let you know at the next meeting what that collaboration looks like. And then KidStop is still working on how they will, what activities they will do with the younger age group. But we haven't quite finalized that. The Teen Center has been the group that's been really working on it.
Great. Any other questions? All right, I'll open this up for public comment. Any members of the audience wish to make any comments? Susie, any emails?
No.
Michelle, raise hands. Okay, then we'll close public comment and bring this back to the board for any final discussion on motion. We have a resolution to approve. Quinn?
Just a quick comment. I'm for this. I think that if we're going to support healthy lifestyles, that we should do it in all forms. And all of you know that one of my platforms has been sort of parks is a very integral part of a healthy lifestyle. And so this supports that initiative, and I'm supportive of that. In my own sort of practice, I not see necessarily the acute consequences of usage, but most of the patients that end up in my office are sort of the long-term consequences of usage of various different topics, and usually by then it's not a happy story. And so if we could stop it ahead of time before they reach that phase, I'm all in support of that. So this is a great program. So thank you for bringing it forward.
Thank you.
Thank you. Eloquently put. Thank you. Any other comments? Then I will call for a motion to approve this resolution. Let me just introduce the call for motion to adopt resolution 2023-10-12, declaring October 22nd through 29th, 2023 as Red Ribbon Week.
I'll move to approve that.
Thank you, Quay. Any second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Derek. It's been moved and seconded to adopt this resolution. All in favor?
Aye.
5-0, Susie. Yeah, thank you.
you so
Lila
much.
and Kat, thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We will wear our ribbons proudly. Thank you, guys.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you.
We'll leave a few extra in case anybody has somebody else in our.
Thank you.
Thanks. Thanks.
Thank you.
Good night.
See you guys.
Good night.
Item 6.2 is to authorize staff to enter into a contract with Delta Fence Company in the amount of $8,480 to relocate and reconstruct approximately 347 feet of Pleasant Park's northern boundary fence in the vicinity of the three addresses noted there to an alignment that is entirely on park property. That is a very large and long introduction to this subject. Michelle.
Yes, thank you. I have Ocean for General Counsel here this evening. I'm just going to give a brief introduction, a very comprehensive staff report, I believe, so it has all of the information. But basically, if you've seen the northern boundary fence, you may have noticed that that we had some property owners who were digging in their backyard and undermining the fence. What that led to was us pursuing an understanding of where that fence was in relation to property lines. And we found that that fence was not on our property. And so we don't know, as we mentioned in the report, we don't know exactly how that happened. We're assuming that there were fences there at one point in time, and the fence went, from what I'm told, about a foot off of those previous fences. Some of those fences have been removed since then. But basically what that means is we needed to fix the fence. And, you know, in order to continue for it to be on somebody else's property, we needed an affirmative, we needed those property owners to affirmatively say that that was okay and give us permission. We contacted all of those homeowners. None of them wanted to provide that, so we're at the point where we need to fix the fence, we need to move the fence. And so I'm here tonight, number one, to let you know what's happening, because the fence is going to need to be moved, as well as we didn't budget this item. So it's an unbudgeted item. And so the expense is, it is a capital expense because it's over the $5,000 threshold that we currently have for our capital expenses. And so with that, that's just basic overview. So tonight I'm requesting that the board approve the expenditure so that we can move forward and move the fence back onto our property. Staff has done a survey. We know where that line is. And so we'll be able to make sure that it is in the appropriate place when it does get moved. And it isn't going to affect any landscaping at this point in time. So we're not going to need to move any landscaping. So that was good news. And so, but with that, Osa, is there anything you wanted to add?
No, that covers it. I don't have anything to add, but I'm happy to answer questions.
Questions, from Michelle or Rosa? Bobby?
Yeah, since I feel like I was involved in this first go around, I have a handful of questions. First, so is it correct to state that when the neighbors that are affected were contacted about keeping the existing fence on where it was, but just redo it? No. Or
they either said no or they didn't contact us. So
Gotcha.
yeah. And so they needed to take an action. We know that they have all received the letter.
Gotcha.
And they all received that information. At least one of those property owners took all of the tarps down that they had on the fence. So we know that they received it.
Gotcha.
And so, but they needed to affirmatively let us know, so.
And then I'm a little confused. Do the three houses that are mentioned, do all of them have back fences in their backyard, or is there one that does not?
There are two that do not.
Two that do not
Yeah.
have any?
Yes, there are two that do not have any fences in their backyard. There's one that does.
One that does. Sorry,
No, please, continue.
another question is, is there an explanation as to why we need to put up a fence, since it's already been determined that we typically do not have fences?
So the purpose of the fence was to keep balls from rolling or going over the fence into backyards. This portion of the fence is is down the line, so we could remove it entirely and not put it back. But since the decision previously was to put it up, we decided just moving it would be the best course of action at this point in time. So, you know, I mean, if we did that, if the board decided, hey, we just want to take the fence down, we would need to let those neighbors know that, hey, this is the date we're going to take that fence down. You need to put up fences yourselves.
And so, and that, if I'm correct, that wasn't an option in the letter that was provided them, or was it? Okay.
No, it was not.
Okay, so nothing that we've communicated to them said that we wouldn't put a fence back up,
Correct.
it would be that we would. So now moving the fence back, what, 6 feet?
Well, it kind of jogs. It goes from 1 to 9. In some places it's 9 feet. In some places it's 1. It kind of jogs this way, like
But I mean-
at a diagonal.
But we're pulling it
We're pulling it into the park.
into the park.
Yes.
So pulling it into the park, keeping it at the same height, does it still have the same impact of keeping balls out that it did originally?
I don't know.
Can I
Tom?
answer that?
Yeah.
At the time the fence was put up, because the senior softball players were using both those fields, and they were hitting the balls from the field number 2, were going out there and going into people's backyards. So they put up the 8-foot fence there. Senior softball no longer plays there. They're all playing over at Pleasant Oaks Park now, so the impact would.
And so we don't have adult players playing on that field anymore. So I actually don't. Currently, right. Currently, we don't have any adult players playing on that field. So I don't believe, like, if we took the fence down, I don't believe we would have a conflict. But I do believe we would need to let those neighbors know that that was the course of action we'd want to take. So,
Thank you.
oh, so did you have anything to add to that?
Nope, I agree. And the agenda description this evening doesn't talk about removing the fence. So I think you'd want to have a future meeting at which those neighbors could come and comment.
Okay. One line, the neighbor that was affected, which I believe that or had originally talked about putting a gate, and that was at 1984 Fay, was that?
Yeah.
Were they, okay.
Yeah.
Do they have a fence or
They have a fence.
Okay.
They're the one property that has a fence.
So as I recall from that,
Mhm.
their our fence
Mhm.
was pretty close to theirs, which
Yeah.
didn't allow them access to get through.
Mhm.
Would this move that back or would it keep it on the same?
Yeah, it would move it back. They'd get about a foot back. They're the less amount, but if we took the fence entirely down. If that's the direction the board would like to go, we bring it back to you on another agenda. Then they would then have access to fix their fence to come in, so.
Gotcha. Thank you. Thanks.
Derek.
Yeah, I was just curious about the map and, you know, what appears to be maybe a storm drain easement. I'm not sure, is that the private property owner's responsibility and not the city's? Was that why the city was consulted in this matter?
Oh, so did you wanna talk to that?
Yeah, there are two strips that are, I mean, I'll just use the term storm drain easements for convenience. There's a private, excuse me, there's a private reserve.
Oh, so 1 second, do you have the image?
Yeah, I'll put it up
that
right
you
now.
have included in the report? Can you put it
oh,
up?
Actually, I can make it larger.
Can you allow
Do
me
I
to
need to-
share?
Yes, I can, there you go.
Okay. So this is an aerial photo. I'm going to zoom in if I can. Oh, using a different version of Adobe here. Okay. So can you see here on my screen, there's a strip here. This is a county and now city.
Also, if you're using a pointer or something, it's not appearing.
Yeah, all I have is
It is.
mine.
Oh, there it is. Okay.
Does that help?
Yeah,
Okay, so
it does, yes.
there are storm drain facilities in this vicinity. They are not district-owned facilities. They are not district-maintained facilities. We do not have, a complete understanding of exactly who owns what, but district staff checked in with city staff about this proposed fence relocation, and Tom could speak to this more precisely, but my understanding is city staff don't object to this proposed fence move. A portion of the storm drain pipe is likely on private property, and a portion may be within this formerly county, now city storm drain easement. And it's a little bit confusing because there's two separate instruments or two separate easements. There's a strip that's on private property that was dedicated in the subdivision map. And then there's this separate easement that I'm now showing you on the visual that's a city/county storm drain easement. So our guess is that the fence may have been relocated where it is in order to match up with the fences that were there in the field. And those fences there in the field may have been put there, decades ago because of the location of the storm drain facilities. But what will happen if we relocate our fence is those storm drain facilities aren't going anywhere. They're going to stay in the exact same location, in the exact same easements. And so somebody who might need access in the future could come through a private property to get to them rather than through the district park.
Well, that just raised a lot of questions.
And no one maintains those currently?
We do not maintain them, and we don't have any responsibility for them. So it would be the city. We checked in with the city. They didn't have any issue with us moving the fence. They're theirs to maintain, so they didn't have any issue with us moving our fence back to our own property.
other questions before I ask some? Okay. Well, first of all, you mentioned that staff did a survey. Is staff qualified to do a survey?
No, we had a surveyor out.
You had a surveyor out,
Yes.
okay. The surveyor mentioned the easement?
Yes, and marked it on the document that she prepared for us. So she's marked the property line. She's shown us where the easements are and the existing fence.
You know, I, as a professional, I have no trust in the county overlays. But it does show me that outside of the lot lines, there is an easement. And it would seem like the easement is in the park, not on the backs of the properties here. So I'm wondering if we need to pull some, I haven't seen the survey. I don't know what the surveyor says in terms of the obligations we might have if that, in fact, that easement is on parkland, to not fence it in.
It's not on parkland. So our property line is that bottom line, is just outside that bottom line. So the easement isn't on our property.
Well,
And
so remember, there's
property.
2 easements. There's one that's on the private property. That's not on our land, right? That's a reserve for drainage purposes. That's on the neighboring private property. Then there is an easement that was granted to the county, and now it's held by the city, also for storm drain facilities. That's over our property. But putting a fence where we're proposing will not interfere with that storm drain easement. And just to make extra sure, we went and, well, Tom went and talked with city staff to let them know that this was what's proposed, and they are okay with the proposed location. And when the fence is being constructed, obviously you have to be careful not to do anything to damage any storm drain facilities.
To them, we're telling them that they can now move their fence out to meet our fence. I'm not sure the city would want us to say that to them. Would you agree with that? Because that would go over the city's easement.
It would be going over the private reserve on the private property. And my understanding is that those fences can, they don't have to damage the storm drain. The storm drain is deep enough that it shouldn't be a problem. And if somebody ever needed to get in there to maintain the storm drain, the fences might need to come out temporarily.
Our fences would have to come out temporarily?
No, the ones you were talking about.
There's the side fences.
The extensions, yeah. But we have no indication that there's any maintenance need or that any of these fences would be inconsistent with the storm drain. And that's based on talking with city staff.
Just so I'm clear which properties are impacted, because I'm seeing a drawing that goes across the backs of about 7 different properties, but we're only talking about a fence at the back of 3 of these properties. They're the ones off Fay Court, right?
So one on Fay and the 2 at the very end of May Court. So
So the ones right in the middle.
yes, the 2 in the middle, those are the ones without fences right now, without their own fences.
Yeah.
And then the one on Fay Court, which is right to the left of that, that brown one, so all 3 of those properties that abut the park.
You know, I think, Michelle, the concern I'm having is that I'm not seeing the survey. I'm looking at a county overlay, which I don't have any confidence in. So I'm trying really hard to understand what it is we're doing and where we're moving our fences and what the respective property rights might be.
Right.
Do you have the survey, Joseph?
Yeah, I'm going to work to try to pull that up right now. It will take me a second. I did not have it open.
We can come back.
And
Yeah,
that's
that would be
especially
helpful.
true-
Yeah,
It's especially true with the, what's going on at the right-hand side of the picture where it widens. Because it looks like that's a separate easement also.
I think that's the one that she's referring to, that's on private property. But the other one, the one directly behind the properties is not, right?
yeah, it's been a while since I looked at the survey, so.
Yeah, but see, the
and-
easement has to be on somebody's property. Right now, the overlay makes it look as if it's in the park. But what
yeah.
Michelle and Osa are telling us is it's actually at the back of these owners' property.
It's both.
Yeah, it's both. We do have one on ours as well, so,
And then there was something else, Michelle, in the report that said that you thought that maybe the reason the fence was put where it was so that there could be access to maintain an easement. But I can't figure out how that. is
Yeah, well, I
logical.
mean, just because of where the fence is located, and the easement is basically on the park side, it's speculation. We could not find any documentation other than it was done. And so, and you know, the staff member who was here at the time said, well, we just put it 1 foot off of the fences that were there. That was the entire information I received. So, you know, so there is no good documentation on that. So yeah, I don't think so.
Right. I have pulled up what I think of as the survey. Michelle, is this the one you were thinking of as well? And this is the preliminary analysis from the surveyor, I should say. It's not formally a survey. So
Is there a formal survey?
Do we get a formal survey?
I think we stopped doing
Yes.
that because we realized we would need to have the surveyor back when it came time to relocate the fence. So the idea was to have her mark the property line in the field when the actual fence goes in. If
She actually marked the property line in the field already
Okay.
for us. Yeah, so we could see what it actually was, so.
okay. Well,
But
it's
yeah,
just
go ahead.
depending on if those markers are still there and visible, we might need that again.
They are.
Yeah, so that shows what appears to be a boundary line, but it doesn't show easements.
Right, so here, just to walk you through it, the fence line is here, approximate fence line, which is the line with the X's, right? And so you can see the fence line is pretty straight, and then it starts to deviate from the red property line, and then it takes a big jog and goes over here. And so it's not at all straight in the field. And you can see these are the 3 properties we were talking about. Fay Court, this one, Fay, and then 2 over on May. Or 2 on Fay and 1 on May, maybe. Yeah.
1 on Fay and 2 on May.
Okay. So the key lines. So the key lines to see here are the fence, which is the line with the X's, and the property line, which is this red line, subdivision boundary line. And so our property runs to the subdivision boundary line, and so does the neighboring private property owners. That's our understanding from looking at the documents and the surveyor as well. So right now the fence.
So what is the dotted black line?
This is the private reserve.
The dash.
So this line here on private property, that is the 10-foot drainage reserve that was shown in the subdivision map. It's not an easement held by the city necessarily. It's a private reserve shown within the subdivision. And then here is a 10-foot drainage and access easement that is held by, was given to the county, but now it's held by the city, and that's on our property. So the proposal is to place the fence line on the boundary line.
Right, because then we'll still have the drainage easement will still be on the park side, with the edge of it being where the fence is, correct, Osa?
Correct. So anybody who wants to access the easement could just walk along the boundary within the easement. It won't be blocking the 10-foot drainage easement.
The proposal from Delta talks about gates. Why would there put, yeah, there's gates there.
Did that include, what bonded?
Walk gates, drive gates.
Yeah,
side gates.
Yeah, that's just there isn't anything next to those, so this is just their form. So, there's no dollar amounts next to those gates, so, because there is no gates in it, so.
Is the current fence only 6 feet high or is it 8 feet?
It's 8 feet currently.
And why would we go to 6?
Because we don't believe that 8 feet is necessary at this time. Because we don't have the balls flying that far, so and it was more expensive, so we're recommending to make it 6 feet. At this time.
However, there's, some future potential for redoing the park and some of the activities, right?
That could be.
And so would it be pound foolish to not restore the 8-foot fence?
The 8-foot fence was significantly more expensive. And so we could look at that as well. We can bring that back. But we felt that it was 6 feet was sufficient for the current purposes, and if we needed to change that in the future, we could.
Eric?
I have a question about the sketch because it shows, the fence being replaced at 343 feet, but another 4 foot that jogs back. Does that 4 foot then go also along the district's property line, or is that?
Yeah, so the property line is weird, and then we jog back to the retaining sound wall that runs behind basically kind of home plate, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Bobby or Tom, this is echoing in my head about a conversation that we had back at the time that we installed the fence and completed the senior center and all. Wasn't there some discussion about our offer to put that fence back there as part of this project? And there was an 8-foot fence?
You talking about the existing fence?
Talking
I-
about
yeah.
when the existing as part of the project. I thought we'd had conversations with the property owners back there.
we never removed.
Yeah, I don't remember that.
Well, this is a new fence.
Right.
We put it in 2009, 2010, so before the senior center was built.
But maybe we didn't ask the neighbors to contribute to it. Was that it? That we just said that we would pay for it? Or is that Pleasant Oaks Park?
I think, yeah.
I remember having conversations about fences at Pleasant Oaks Park. But I don't remember having a conversation about this. Because when this came up a year, 2, 3.
Yeah,
ago,
with the question about the gate. So,
Yeah, none of that came up yet from them.
Well, I don't know what the price differential is, but I would be interested in knowing between 8 and 6, particularly given the fact that some of the homes there don't have fences. I think there's just better security for an 8-foot fence. Both from people coming from the lots into the park and also for protecting the lots from people hopping over a 6-foot fence where the owners have not put their own fence in. So I'm just projecting there. So I guess I'll put it in the form of a question. Do you see utility in going to an 8-foot fence for either of those reasons?
I really don't like us putting fences in at all, but this fence is already here. Chain link fence is a chain link fence, and so it's gonna be easy to hop no matter what, but most neighborhood fences are 6 feet anyways. We could, it could be more security. I don't necessarily know if an extra 2 feet really changes that. But we can definitely come back with a price difference on what that might look like, so.
Thank you, Bobby.
Yeah, I'm having a hard time sitting on my hands on this one. I'm in the question portion, so I'm gonna try to frame this in the question. Is there any liability concerns if the fence was just removed in its totality?
OSA?
I've been looking at the aerial photo. I don't see any swimming pools per se. So, that would be the first thing I would think about is whether any of these yards have pools. But I wouldn't just remove the fence without having a conversation with those property owners, because I think they're going to expect, it would be a strange place to not have a fence. I'm trying to think of another park where we don't have a boundary fence, not necessarily ours, but usually the neighbors want one. So I
Yeah,
wouldn't.
we don't, I mean, Pleasant Oaks Park, we don't have any boundary, we don't have any fences on the private.
So
Property
this
owners
is a
have
good
it.
can we stick with this? If there was a pool, is the liability ours for not having a fence for those people not having a fence in their backyard?
No, if the pool is, the danger is on the private property, so it's on them to put up a fence. But if we just, go out and remove our fence and they've been sort of relying on it for the safety of their pool, I don't think that would be a good situation. So I think we should, if we're thinking about taking our fence out, I think we should have a conversation with the neighbors to see if they can be convinced to put up their own fences. And in doing that, evaluate whether there are dangerous conditions on those private properties. I would certainly hope not. And I don't see any pools from the aerial, but we don't want a situation where park users get confused about what's parkland and what's somebody's backyard and, go wandering over there.
So currently, does that fence close in? Because I've walked through the back of that fence to get in that back line.
Mhm.
So is that,
You can shimmy through there.
Yeah.
I mean, there definitely is
so right now, the people, it appears that this house has a
Talking about-
pool.
Are you talking about from the end
Yeah.
by the senior center?
So no, from midway, so where the fence goes like
It's a little bit
this.
wide,
So it
yeah.
goes like this and then it cuts in and then it goes like that. You can get in kind of right over there where it cuts. Yeah, I did when we were doing
Yeah.
this the last.
Well, and the one with the pool has their own fence, so they have their own fence, Bobby, so those two on what is that, on Fay Court, both have fences. The two on May do not have fences. And I am concerned about one of those houses, the first one on the left,
Okay, so the two on Fay have fences, really? Okay, the two on May don't.
do not.
Okay.
Yeah.
But there's no pools in either one of those.
Neither of those have pools, except the one house that is undermining the fence right now, they have a very big hole
Right,
on the edge, and so, I am concerned, I'm concerned about that property if we were to just take the fence down. So, and I'm not sure about, really interacting with that particular, we haven't had a lot of luck in having conversations with that property owner, so.
I think
I have one other question. What would you say would be the lifespan of a fence like this? I mean, seeing as how it was put in 2010, would it be expected to last longer than
It's a very long time. It's been undermined by the person living on May Court.
Mhm.
Yes, without that, we wouldn't be having this conversation. I would have not known that this was not on our property and it would have been just continued as it was. But once we were made aware, then we needed to address it.
Can I ask you a question? And based on that, what is, in your interpretation, or if we've heard from the owner of the house, do we know why were they doing this intentionally to remove the fence, or were they doing something that then resulted in the fence falling down?
The entire backyard of that house seems to have been excavated and no one seems to know why. The person that lives there has not responded to me for conversations. So, I don't know why he did it, but there was a lot of drain pipe out there. There's just big mounds of dirt in the backyard. There's things being piled up outside the house. It's just
Yeah, and Thomas tried to knock on the door and have conversations. A number of times, and we're not getting any response from that particular neighbor. Although they did respond to the letter by taking down the things they had attached to the fence, so.
But when they took the things down off the fence, now they no longer have a fence?
No, when I
They
said,
just have the frame.
no, it's our fence. They had tarps put on the fence, on our fence.
So they have no fence.
They have no fence.
Have they ever had a fence?
yes, they removed their fence when we put our fence up.
In 09.
I don't know exactly the date. They just removed it after our fence was up, and then for their privacy, they put sailcloth along there. And a lot of when this tipped over was once he had undermined it, then we had these windstorms and he's got sails cloth on there and it just heaved on the fence.
Thank you.
Question, as I'm looking at the county overlay again, because that's what I have in front of me. We're looking at 300 and some feet of fence, right?
Yes,
And so we're not replacing the entire span of fencing, right?
no,
Okay, so the fencing that's behind the home on Patricia and the first home that's on Fay Court are not being replaced. That the fence is not being replaced.
It starts behind Garrett Stone's house, which is on Fay Court.
Yeah.
And it's about halfway in the middle of his backyard.
Okay,
and
so-
that's east.
So we'll start moving. So we only have, do we have to move the fence that's behind the home on Patricia Drive?
No,
Yeah.
that one's on Park District property.
Okay, so it's only when we get to about the middle of 1984 Fay Court.
1985, it's the end, it's like kind of the back corner of 1985. It's not even the entire fence line.
Okay, so that's where we would start removing and replacing, relocating
Relocated.
the fence, and that will be done in a straight line,
Yeah, well,
contiguous with what we've
it's,
currently done.
it goes, it kind of goes diagonally. And then it jogs back. So if you look at and it jogs back to the sound wall, right?
Correct.
The sound wall.
Yeah, so there's a wooden sound wall, so that goes from Patricia Drive to the sound wall, and there's a very large wooden sound wall that goes from kind of halfway behind home or first base, in between home plate and first base, and goes down to behind the community garden. So there's two fence structures in between our park and the property. And we're not moving the sound wall.
Why are we not moving the sound wall?
It's on our property, so,
It's this side of the fence.
yes, so it's just this side of the fence.
Okay, so again, my question is, so we would be relocating the fence behind 1985 Bay Court, behind 1984 May Court, and 1985 May Court. Is that correct?
Yeah, about those three properties.
So we'll be relocating the fence there.
Yep.
And the fence to the east and the fence to the west are 8-foot fences,
Yes,
right?
yes,
So we're looking at some 6-foot fences attached to 8-foot fences.
well, actually, the sound wall's 10 feet, right?
Yeah,
It's
10
10 to 12, yeah, it's the one that's directly behind the baseball, softball diamond is actually 12 feet, so. Like it's really
Okay,
tall, so
okay.
it's
We'll
already.
keep air balls from
Yes,
going there.
correct.
Okay.
So,
So going from 12
Yeah.
to 8.
Yeah.
To 6 to 8. Is that
12
sort of?
6 to back to 8.
I'm sorry, what was that again?
We started Patricia, it's 8 feet, dropped down to 6, and then all the way just to the sound wall.
And then up to 12.
Would it line up with the 8-foot fence? Is that the thought, that it would then go straight from?
yeah, it would just go straight from the 8-foot fence, so, and we can make it 8, we can bring it back and we can make it 8 feet, we were just trying to save some money.
Yeah, the money saved is considerable going to the 6-foot fence because we were able to get that price. I'm able to cut off the 8-foot poles and then move them to the location where the new fence would be. They go 2 feet in the ground. Now you have 6-foot poles.
So they repurposed the poles.
So, yeah, we're repurposing the poles and the top piping along the edge. If we go back to just a straight 8-foot fence, the price I believe is roughly, it's $22,000. And
What?
that was.
But that was with
that
slats,
was with
so yeah,
slats.
we'd have to get a new price, because we were looking at, because the other property owners don't have fences.
Fences.
I asked for prices with slats to block that view.
I appreciate that.
And so, But it was $22,000 and that's a lot to
So.
pay. So I was like,
So we went from 8
Yeah,
foot with
yeah,
slats to
correct.
a price for
6
6 foot,
correct.
so I guess we need to,
we
I would like,
we might have skipped a step, yes, well, definitely, and we can do that, but. If the full board would like us to do that.
and where on 19, okay, so we have 3. All right, I guess I'm out of questions. Any other, Bobby?
One last question. What would it cost to take out the existing remaining 8-foot fence from Patricia to?
Used to remove the entire.
Yeah,
I do not have a bid on that.
Make it a 6 foot fence, all the way.
well, I was
I guess
just wondering,
no
no fence, no fence.
Okay, any other questions? Open for public comment. Any members of the public like to address us on this subject? No, Susie, any emails, Michelle, hands?
No public, nobody on Zoom.
Okay, so close public comment and bring it back to the board of directors. All right, let's have a conversation.
I'll go ahead and kick it off, because I've never been in favor of fences, you know, like us being in the fence game. All I've heard from the time I got on this board was we're not involved in the game. When we dealt with this at Pleasant Oaks Park, it was if people wanted to put up a fence, if they wanted to have a gate, you know, we didn't care, because that was your fence is your fence, you do what you want. I mean, we did have an issue, I think, with gates and access, but to me, this is, you know, I had the concern when the owner in 1985, Fay, came forward with, you know, the problem that they, in my opinion, had an inequity issue, because they, while everybody else could, you know, access part, they couldn't get through because the fence was right up on their property. And, you know, so now you bring this forward. I've never been, it sounds like the fence, the reason for the fence was to keep balls essentially rolling out, because nobody's hitting a fly ball that far. And if they are, an 8-foot fence, a 10-foot fence isn't gonna keep it out. So this is, I'm guessing, from rolling into, you know.
At the time, it seemed to solve the problem of the seniors hitting the balls over.
Okay, well, and then if you go even further, now there's, you know, you're with 85, that if there's no way a ball could roll into 85 without going through the, you know, the first baseline. And, you know, 80, to me, it's just the, you know, property owner. Anyways, I don't think a fence solves anything for us other than keeping the property owners out of the park, which defeats the entire purpose of what we've always been about, is having people be a part of the parks. If they don't want to have a fence, you know, in my opinion, then that's on them. Everybody that it's a highly visited park, people are gonna, I think they're gonna put fences up pretty soon. But anyways, I just, to me, the necessity to have a fence is no longer exists. And I would be in favor, if it did at some point, to then revisit it to talk about putting a fence up. I also agree with council that this wasn't, that option wasn't included. So I guess my recommendation would be that we, you know, have this discussion if, you know, my recommendation would be to go back to the neighbors and tell them we're not going to put a fence up, and don't put a fence up. So.
Well, I look at it a little differently. I think the fence, particularly the quality of the fence that we put in, is an aesthetic finishing to that side of the park. And it, had there been contiguous fences that the neighbors had right on the other side of it, I could see the argument. But I don't. And the state of some of those backyards is such that I would be very uncomfortable not putting in something that was some demarcation. It's just an aesthetic issue, I think, for me to finish off the park. There's some security issues embedded in all of that. For me, largely, I think we paid for that fence to begin with in order to finish off that edge of the park. Whether it is true that we did it in order to keep balls out, I don't know if that's accurate or not. To a certain extent, I wish we could say that staff had contacted Bob Berggren or Lynn Spatz or someone, who was integral in the design of the park and all of that, and finishing off that edge of the park. and, we don't have that information to us, so I wouldn't want to say that we put it in only to keep the balls out. Now there's no balls, therefore we need the fence. I don't think it's as simple as that. To me, it's finishing off the park in an attractive way.
So on that, can I ask a clarifying question? Because you're saying it was to the aesthetics of it and the continuous nature of the fence, or to make it aesthetically pleasing. If every, for instance, like Pleasant Oaks Park, where there's, hodgepodge of fences, but everybody has a fence. Everybody does have a fence from 85 Patricia to 85 Fay Court. It's really, in my mind,
The two properties
There's
on
two
Main.
properties.
the first three properties on that map from left to right have fences
Fences.
that look nice, that look great.
And one has a pool.
So my question is, if the property owners on the next court had aesthetically pleasing fences, or fences in general that went along that matched like Pleasant Oaks Park or Hassan Gal Park, would that be acceptable? Because my question is like, this could change tomorrow if there's new homeowners there that put up a fence. It could change tomorrow if they're told that they can't put up a fence, and then they have 4 fences. So I guess my question to you is, the black chain link fence, is that to make it more aesthetically pleasing than 5 finished wood fences along that?
In my view,
Property.
yes,
Okay.
yes. And I think the reason we went a different route with Pleasant Oaks Park. You recall we had conversations with all of those owners about they wanted gates, they wanted, the whole raft of things that we had to negotiate. They didn't want an 8-foot fence because of the view of Mount Diablo they had out the back of their homes. And so there was a lot of back and forth with the neighbors about fencing there. Not only were up against some budgetary constraints, but also the fact that the neighbors did not want a fence there. They did not want us to put a fence in. Because it was not going to have gates. We clearly told them it was not going to have gates, and it was going to be tall enough that they felt it was going to block their view. So I just recall that the conversation having to do with the area behind the senior center was a different conversation.
Yeah, it's hard because I don't recall any of that. And again, none of that came up when we dealt with this issue 2 years ago about that. There was no mention at all about that. And then also the only thing I recall from the Pleasant Oaks discussion was exactly what you said, but the message from the district was that we don't build fences. And that was my frustration when this came forward 3 years ago, is we built a fence, despite the fact that we say we don't build fences.
And that's right, you're right, Bobby. And Roger Smith Park, when someone came to us and wanted us to either go in halfway on replacing their fence or whatever, we said, no, it's the fence, it's your fence, it's not our fence. We don't care if you have a fence. I think if people started taking down their fences along in Roger Smith Park and it was unsightly, we might think differently about it. I don't know. But I have seen, you and I walked together
There's
the condition of
big
that,
dirt hills.
that yard. And to just leave that open to the park would trouble me a lot.
I mean, it's just a Pandora's box of,
Yeah.
all the parks that we have fences.
Yeah, well, this is our premier parks. Anyway, we're in discussion mode here, so let's all chime in.
Well, what gets me is, that we're looking to spend this money to really benefit 2 homes. How does that make sense in the public's mindset? Why would the district choose to spend money that clearly doesn't benefit any park users other than these 2 homeowners?
Okay, I'm not sure that I agree with that premise, that there's no benefit to the public.
I don't see a
of that aesthetic
benefit to
fence
the
closing on the
public.
park.
Yeah, because it's not as if they're relying on that fence for any purpose. It's clear it's no longer needed for protecting the balls to go out into someone's private property. And if it's only aesthetic, I could argue that I don't think it's aesthetically pleasing as it currently is. And despite the reservations as well that the city has like that it would be okay for them to maintain the storm drain system. I just don't see the reality of having a fence there and making it any easier to access those storm drain facilities. The reason why there's a jog is that it had to be built, the fence around a catch basin. So, you know, you're moving the fence, now the catch basin's clearly going to be in someone's backyard. That doesn't make it any easier for the city to maintain those assets. We have mature eucalyptus trees that, you know, if the branches come down in another storm, take out a fence and then we're replacing it again. I mean, the homeowners that were there clearly didn't value the fence enough to think about, you know, putting on things and undermining it. So they've damaged it prematurely in less time than it should have lasted otherwise. So why do we say, oh, you broke it, we're gonna go ahead and replace it, even though we move it onto our property? It just doesn't make sense.
Well, to me, that's apples and oranges. We're replacing it. We would not have replaced it. We would have held them responsible for damaging our fence. But then we discovered it wasn't on our property. So it's the fact that we have to move or relocate the fence that is creating the issue of whether we will or not. But I agree with you. I think all of these easements are complicating the issues. The fact that the city said they don't care, it surprises me. But honestly, I don't know how all these easements are running.
We have had no one from these neighbors come to speak at our meeting this evening. I guess they clearly don't care about the fence enough to come to the meeting where it's going to be discussed.
Write a letter.
Or respond, yeah.
And just to figure out what Bobby was saying in terms of just the equity issue, we don't build fences, you know, it's not just our parks, it's our open spaces as well too. You have homes that abut and they get damaged, and what, it's your fence. And so if we're in the business of not building fences, then we should not be in the business of building fences, because I would agree we would open Pandora's box, because not just our parks, but miles of, you know, properties abutting a lot of our district property, right? Open spaces and parks and everything. And so I don't think we should carve out a special thing just for this. If the homeowners want a fence, they can put up a fence. That's their prerogative.
Sadie? Excuse me. Would the intent, if be to, we have to remove the fence in any event?
Well, we need to take it, since we put it in, we need to get it back on our property. So
Right.
we have two options. Which is to remove it and bring to remove it entirely,
Yeah.
or bring it in. Tonight, staff has one option. If the board would like to consider a different option, like removing it entirely, as Osa said, we would need to put it back on the agenda and come back with that option.
Could we not just remove the part that's damaged? Why are we obligated to relocate the fence? Nobody's demanded it of us.
Well, it's my understanding also that once we know that something isn't on our property that we put in and we're responsible for, we need to move it onto our property, correct, Osa?
Right, I think that what Sandy is saying is, I think you're saying the same thing. Yeah, we have two options. We could take it out entirely, which is not part of the agenda description tonight, and hasn't been discussed with the neighbors, but could be, or remove it. Or move it onto our property. We shouldn't leave the fence where it is, because we know now that it's on private property and we put it there. It likely was that we did it with the property owner's permission at the time, but unfortunately, we don't have any records of that. We don't have anything in writing from that time frame.
We can bring both options back, and if the neighbors want to have their say, they can have their say. It's not like we don't have to make a decision tonight.
There's also options of different kinds of fences, right? We have in other parks, we have split rail fences, right? Which may, demarcate without being a big chain link fence, right? So we could work up other options as well.
Thank you. Oh, so that's creative, but you're frozen.
Oh, sorry, that happens sometimes.
I can hear you.
We can hear you.
Now I
There you are.
again.
Okay, no, that's creative, that's creative. It's creative. Is there something about being in public, I know we're back into questions, but I'm going to allow it. Is there something about being a public agency that once we know something isn't in the right location, we're honor bound to move it? Certainly in the private sector, that's not the case.
The concern I have is that we've effectively taken a few feet of these backyards and made them part of the park with this fence. So we didn't know
That's
that
the public
until,
agency.
right. We didn't know that until very recently. And as soon as we found out, we set about working to fix the problem. So I don't think, I wouldn't expect any liability based on where we stand tonight, but going forward is a different story.
Okay, there's a constitutional issue there. Okay,
Exactly.
I got it. Which of course the Constitution applies to government, doesn't apply to private entities.
You mean like compensating the property owners, like for like
Yes,
eminent domain or
if they
something like
take it,
that?
if
Yeah,
they take
taking of the property.
Exactly. Right.
Yeah. All right, well, maybe, Sandy, you have more comments?
No, I think you're gonna say what I
I
was
was just
thinking.
going to suggest we try and reach a consensus about whether to bring this back for removal option without having decided it, but bring it back under the process that would involve the neighbors. Or whether we move forward with the proposal that is on the table with some modifications. I'm getting the sense that there may be more interest in possibly removing that.
Yeah, but we haven't heard the neighbors and so. give them the
I- yeah,
opportunity.
No, I'm talking about
Yeah.
what we do about the tonight's
Yeah,
action item.
I think the recommendation would likely be to go back to the neighbors with a different letter and a different communication that indicates that now this other option is also on the table, removal of the item, and then we come back, we still haven't made a decision one way or the other, but at least at this point, they have no knowledge that the removal
That's
could even
Bruce's
be
recommendation.
discussed, so I think
Okay. So do we have something of a consensus to move this into a different agenda item with a different resolution on it? Following some process along the lines of what our council and our general manager are recommending. Okay, Sandy?
Yes.
Okay,
If you
that's
wanted-
just
if you
consensus,
wanted
yeah.
If you
Okay.
wanted a consensus, yes.
All right, then that's what we're going to do. We're going to, I don't know that table is the right word. We're not moving forward on this particular action item this evening, and we'll bring it back, ask general manager and council to bring it back at a later time once those communications have been achieved.
Right.
Okay. Oh, so okay with
We
that
understand.
approach?
Yeah, that was very helpful. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you all. And it was a much more detailed conversation we had ever expected, I'm sure. I'm sure OSA didn't either. But here we are. So thank you. A very, very good conversation. Thank you. All right. OSA, you want to go to bed or you want to stick
I'm
around?
going to stick around for the next item about the ad hoc committee proposal.
Got it. Okay. Let me get there. And 6.3 is to appoint a board ad hoc committee to review and make recommendations for revisions to board policy 1000 general prior to the end of February 2024. Michelle?
Yes, so the board had previously appointed an ad hoc committee to work with staff to review and recommend changes to the board policy handbook. We got through series 5,000, series 4,000, and one of the policies on in 1,000, the conflict of interest, and we started working on a couple of others in 1,000. And so at the time, the board didn't identify a time frame, and so I am coming back to the board with a very specific request, since the ad hoc committee needs to needs to be a limited duration. So we need to have a time frame, and it needs to be very specific. So we're asking, Osa and I are coming back to you to ask that you appoint an ad hoc committee with 2 members to work with staff to finalize recommendations to board policy 1000 only. And that would be prior to the end of February 2024. So we would have a deadline, and then we would do that for each policy, so that way we can continue to keep it as an ad hoc committee. Because once, if it's not an ad hoc committee, then it becomes a standing committee and it is subject to the Brown Act. And so.
And how many sections would that be? What general subjects is under general?
It
Is
is,
this a large labor or is this?
no, we've already done.
What are we asking?
We've already done 1040, so I can pull it up.
Michelle, do you want me to read the titles?
Yeah, that'd be great. I was-
Okay, so 1000 is purpose of board policies, 1010 is adoption amendment of policies. We did 1020. 1030 is public complaints, 1040 is district sponsored groups. 1050 is Pleasant Hill Senior Program. 1060 is
We
district,
have a draft.
Hmm?
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
District's Arts Commission. 1070 is Historical and Cultural Center, and last one, 1080 is advertising policy for district publications.
A real potpourri.
It's general, it's pretty much everything, so.
Whoa,
But and we already have a draft of the senior one as well, so.
okay,
because we
that's correct.
So that's correct.
Well, these are meaty topics as you know, well, some of us know. Derek, question?
I just had a question, of those district policies that have been revisited, how many have been done and how many still remain outside of the 1000 series segments? I was just curious.
We have, so we've done 5,000 and 4,000, so we have 1,000, some of the 1,000, we have the 2,000, which is land use policies, 3,000, which is financial. And then the 6,000, well, 6,000 is personnel, it only has one, just so it's super easy, but of the ones that we need to at least review will be land policies and financial. And I don't think there's anything to change in land use policies, but we'll still review it to make sure. And there will be some in financial that we'll need to update, but.
Is personnel different than the?
Yeah, this one specifically just talks about,
Isn't working on?
yeah, so this one just talks about the executive officer, so just that.
It's you.
That, yeah, that the board hires just me, so that's just what that is, so we've, to answer your question, Derek, we've gone about halfway. So we've gotten 3, we got about 3 left.
Yeah, so we'll still have some ad hoc committees,
Yes,
but they're time bound
Yes, but they're gonna be time bound.
and specific too.
And specific, and it will help staff maintain getting through them as well, so. And just to be clear, it can be the same ad hoc committee if the board would want that and those members or everything, so it doesn't have to change, so just as an FYI.
Any other questions of staff?
Where we all try not to make eye contact.
I'm willing to volunteer, but I'll get there in a minute. Any public comment? Nope.
No public comment.
Okay, thank you. Close public comment. I thought Vice Chair Benson was an absolutely wonderful policy setter, smart and dedicated, available. And I really enjoyed working with her on this particular thing. Are you?
Thank you. And I am willing to do it through February for, you know, as that boundary of policy that we want to get done. I think it's important. And we can figure out the rest of it later. But for that particular part, I'm willing to do that again.
Thank you. I'd be willing to continue as well in partnership with her if the board wishes. Any other volunteers?
I was ready to volunteer, but I think you guys would be great.
You want to volunteer?
Well, I think there's gonna be plenty of more to do, so I mean, in February, I mean, because then you're gonna be chair,
Yeah.
I mean, presumably, and then,
I keep telling her that.
yeah.
Well, is that amount of time adequate though, till February?
Yeah.
You think?
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're on a roll.
Yeah. When you, if and when you get overloaded, I'm sure the three of us would be willing to.
And you know, if we drag our feet and don't get it done by February, then you'll be in a position we have to do it again.
Queen and I have been knocking it out of the park
Yeah.
here.
Let's knock it out of
I want to get it done. Yeah, we can get it done for you.
Anyway, all right, I guess I need to call from, if there's no further discussion or volunteers, I'll call for a motion.
I'll move that we appoint the board ad hoc committee of Chair Benato and Vice Chair Benson to review and make recommendations for revisions to board policy 1000 general prior to end of February 2024.
A second.
I'll second.
Thank you, Derek, for seconding. It's been moved and seconded. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
5-0, Susie. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Having second thoughts now. 6.4
Thank you,
is,
Lisa.
All right, with that, I'll.
thank you, Osa, very much.
You all. Good night.
Okay,
Bye.
wave to the screen, she's actually right there.
Yeah.
Oh, up there, yeah. 6.4 is to adopt the 3-year diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. It just went away. Strategic plan. We have Melanie here today, and Michelle, you want to start us off?
I do, and so tonight, we have the final strategic plan, which is what you'll be adopting. Melanie has prepared a report, which identifies the process that we went through and provides some background, and is her commentary on the process, and kind of where we are and what she identifies as some strengths and challenges. Melanie is here this evening. She's not going to provide a report, but Melanie, you want to join us up here in case there are questions? But Melanie will answer questions. She did incorporate the feedback that the board had to the strategic plan from your last meeting and when you reviewed this, and so that has been incorporated.
But not in red line.
Not in red line, no, sorry, we just changed that, so without red line.
Perhaps it would be good to go through the changes that were incorporated, if possible.
Yeah, do you have that information?
Yeah, actually.
I don't have exactly, I know we went right, I didn't bring that with me, so. Okay. Thanks, Melanie.
Welcome, by the way.
Hi. Good afternoon, evening, I should say. So the recommendations that were made last time that I was here was specifically to the table. And those revisions were made. There were only a couple from what I remember, and one that stood out was under the last strategic priority, which was around eliciting information from the community. As you know, this primarily focused internally. So that was one recommendation that was made. And so with the revision that I made, you'll notice as one of the last goals on strategic priority.
What page are you on?
It would probably be the last page.
Yeah, it's page 24.
Last page of the spreadsheet?
Yeah, with the spreadsheet, yeah.
Mhm.
Yep.
It would be strategic priority 5. The last goal is in response to that recommendation.
And can you point to it specifically?
Yeah, so it looks like it is everything, it is
Is it up on page 23 for this?
23, I'd say, is what I'm thinking.
23, 24.
yeah,
Yeah.
23, 24, yeah.
It kind of spans across.
It's the one, the goal that says create an environment where participants feel a sense of belonging within their rec and park experience.
So it was
I'm sorry, where is that?
So it's goal, it's the last goal, which is goal number 5.
This is called these objectives.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, you're reading across here.
Yeah.
Okay, so what Clay just talked about was the green bar.
Yeah, and then you're like the objectives under the agenda.
Yeah, and it would literally be the last box, the last column where it implements an opportunity to get community feedback as it would relate to strategies to from their perspective of what can be done internally to ensure that they could achieve a better sense of belonging at the Park and Rec.
And when you refer to participants, you're referring in this section, not to staff, but to the public?
Yes.
Correct.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the first 4 goals are very staff focused, and then that last goal is really outwardly focused. And so so that hasn't changed, the goals haven't changed. I know the other thing that was identified by the board, the change was the specific use of teams. So we eliminated that, and that is in goal number 2. And so strategic priority 2.
Mhm.
Going way back up?
Yeah, going back up, and so.
Okay, hang on a second.
yeah.
These aren't numbered, at least not in my,
Yeah, so it's the
strategic priority 3, 2, got it.
yeah, so that strategic priority is to enhance staff engagement through effective internal communication strategies. And so the first goal, the very first one, that says empower part-time seasonal non-traditional staff to feel a sense of belonging. That objective used to say implement or make sure everyone gets on Teams, Microsoft Teams specifically. We removed that and used the intranet. And so so that was a change there as well.
There were numbered references to the Teams product.
Yes.
In this, so those have all
Those are all
changed to
been
internet.
Yep, into the internet. And I think those were the 2 largest changes.
Yeah, those were the 2 primary changes that came out of that last meeting as in regards to recommendations to revise. And so the revisions were made.
So Michelle, was it stated last time that that this 3-year plan is a movable plan? So that as we get closer to certain goals, if those no longer fit or we have financial constraints.
Yes.
I mean, there's some hiring things in here that I remember feeling
Right.
a bit concerned about it. And I don't want them to be commitments, binding commitments that if changes warrant.
Right.
So
Yeah, no, and there's enough flexibility in all of these that they're, and I think the biggest thing is that this is the plan of action that we're taking, or that we're, striving for, and then as employees, for our employees and the board, we will keep you abreast of, hey, this is the reason why we might not be doing something, or we might need to move it. How else can we achieve the same thing within financial constraints? But there's enough flexibility in here that this is a goal and a target, but it isn't a guarantee necessarily. It doesn't box us in that we have to do it. But I think the overarching things, all of these things are recommendations that Melanie and her, in her expertise recommends that these are ways that we can achieve some of these goals, right? But really the biggest thing is, the strategic priorities. Each 5 of those are the things we're trying to do, right? So and then all of these goals and objectives are all ways to get there. And so are those the only ways to get there? No. But this is a good starting point for us. And so
Yeah, and there's performance measures that can help you along the way, that can provide you insight as to the process of meeting the goal or not. So that should be helpful. So it's all very methodical. And also in the narrative, it does describe and unpack that this is, you know, a live document and that there could be unforeseen circumstances that would require some changes, which is natural in strategic planning processes because they're usually 3 to 5 years. Anything can happen in 3 to 5 years. So it wouldn't be radically uncommon if there needs to be some moving around.
And once, so this is, the board is gonna adopt this evening. Staff is already working on some of these things. You know, and then we'll do some baseline performance measures. We'll work with Melanie on that and do some baseline performance measures to get us a starting point. So then that way we can look at how we progress in the things that we're implementing. So that is kind of our next steps.
Is there reporting built into this, reporting timeframes built into this, or the things that we should set by policy with you?
Yeah, so that is something that that is you know, my responsibility to report to the board of directors and to the staff. So the time frame, you know, especially where the timeframes are. And so yeah, so my plan is that we would be providing an update at least the beginning on a quarterly basis, you know, just to kind of keep abreast of what's happening and how we're doing that. And so, because the last thing any of us want is to put this on the, you know, Melanie and the staff put a lot of time and effort into this, is to take this and then go, okay, well, now that's good, and we're going to put it on a shelf. And so, so there's a lot of talk about in Melanie's, in her executive summary, about, you know, kind of operationalizing and implementing this. And so, so those are the things that we'll be doing next.
Other questions? Sandy?
Is there a particular software and I didn't think I saw it that is recommended to be used to track?
No, not anything specifically. So, but this kind of goes along the lines of, you know, kind of a major project, so project softwares to utilize, because people are going to be responsible for this across teams and across the organization. And so, you know, there's going to be a lot of people involved. And so I'm looking at opportunities and ways to monitor that.
Okay, thank you.
There's been previous software such as like Monday or Asana that's been used in the past that clients have used, and it really depends on the capacity and also like the preference of the leaders that are kind of overseeing the process and their comfortability with the software or familiarity too as well. But both are actually pretty approachable.
Have you seen those?
I have, yep, and I'm currently working with Monday now to move. I'm looking at that to move our CIP project too. So this is something that we would also do as well.
Nice. Other questions? Bobby?
So I just want to be clear that what we're adopting tonight is that's the plan. And the default would be this. And so in my opinion, anything that would change or veer from this would have to come back for modification.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, so technically, I mean, you know, most of this is staff work. And so, you know, you know, so typically I might not have brought this to the board of directors for adoption. I think, you know, the board authorized a lot of money for us to get this done. I think it's super important for the board. And I think, you know, to make sure that the employees understand the board's commitment to this. And so, but yes, to answer your question, I would bring any major changes back to the board. So. Yeah.
Other questions? Okay, any public comment from members of the audience? Susie, any emails?
No.
Michelle, any raised hands?
No, we don't have any attendees.
Most public comment. Bring this back to the board. All righty, this is an action item this evening, and so let's discuss the board's individual viewpoints about this plan. Would like to kick us off. Sandy.
I'd like to commend Melanie for being, you know, the consultant that helped work with staff to get to this point. It's obviously been a lot of work. I'm still blown away with the amount of effort that staff put in and, under your guidance, to get to this point. I also appreciated the introduction to the plan. How did we get there? I thought that was important and gave a lot of specific information that, you might say, we don't need to hear all this detail, but I think it was important for this particular strategic plan to understand the steps that were taken and how we got to this point. So I do appreciate that. And certainly, again, staff is to be commended also for putting in the time and effort to get to this point. It started, end of April? Something like that. And there were a lot, I think, just in not surprising fits and starts, and just because of what we do as a district. And it's an impressive document to read. So thank you.
Thank you, Sandy. Any others?
I just want to echo Henny just said, it is quite an impressive document, and I really appreciate all the work that everybody's put into it and staff, me as well too. I know you looks like you spent a lot of time putting this together, and thank you for being so open to feedback as well, so we can create this as our evergreen or living document to move us forward. And so I'm actually 100% in support of this. I have a few concerns. That's not necessarily anything that would derail, because we need to just move forward. But I just want to just express just a few concerns, so that when we modify the document or go to our next set of strategic goals or strategic plan in the next sort of iteration of this, that we should consider that I'm still a little bit worried that we don't have enough quantitative metrics. There's quite a bit of qualitative, and I know that there were some paragraphs in there that we need to wait for baseline assessments, but I'm still a little concerned that we don't have sort of more hard metrics into this, and maybe that might come with the next iteration as we sort of learn our baseline and put in place a basic infrastructure that we can get to that point. I just want to be sure that we don't forget about some of more harder measures, so that we can make sure that we keep ourselves accountable. And then the other part is that I'm a little worried about the communication aspect as well too. Now I'm okay with sort of taking out specific software products, but I'm worried that, as you said in your challenges section, that there was a particular challenge of communicating what we talk about here, getting it out to the staff, and then also to our public as well too. There seems to be this gap, and I'm not quite sure if this particular plan addresses every single one of those potential gaps. And maybe again, this might be the next step in that plan, where this is just the basic infrastructure. We're just trying to put that together, and then maybe the next step would be more defined communication plan. But as we move forward with these different iterations, I just want to be sure that we keep that in mind as well too. Those are my only two concerns. I don't think they're big enough to sort of derail this specific strategic plan. I think this is really well written as a good basis to start from. But as we put together the next plan, we hope we can focus on some of those aspects, like how do we measure ourselves more quantitatively, and how do we better communicate what we're doing. So
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any others?
Well, maybe just teeing off of what Kui had mentioned, I had also recognized that the communications barriers were there in the development of this DEI strategic plan. But, I'd wondered myself just, if those communication barriers are, an issue that affect other parts of our operations, and so maybe we need to be mindful then of, how improving communications can improve all of our operations, not just with this, strategic plan, but overall. And then the only other, concern I had, in reading through this, it was very well done, but I want to just make sure, and I have a challenge with saying this correctly, but, in terms of, there's a write-up, which discusses you know, the current political climate that we're under. And I just wanted to make sure that, you know, we're a public, you know, entity, and that, you know, some of those opinions may not have, they may not be in the right place, and it's something that we adopt as a strategic plan. It's not to discredit those as being valid or, you know, accurate in any way. It's just, I was a little concerned when I read some of those things. It's like that may be, you know, the opinion of the author coming through in terms of a strategic plan that would be, you know, for the public. So, you know, that just be mindful of that particular part of the executive summary.
Yeah, I think you raise a good point. What I try to do is really acknowledge kind of like the elephant in the room in regards to the more recent commentary about the effectiveness of DEI in the workforce. And so just my style of transparency, just acknowledging that it's going through a moment where it's being questioned in regards to its effectiveness. And I wanted to leave a document that left you feeling very secure and confident, that was embedded in facts, that contradicted a lot of the commentary that we are hearing today about that. So when you know, you look at this, that you could recognize and know that even I can, you know, acknowledge what's being said, but I can also back up this work and this whole approach with facts, that it is highly effective, and that currently we're just in a time where a lot of things are being politicized, and not to let that derail you or lose confidence of the impact that this has on the workforce.
Yeah, definitely. I appreciate it, you know, that it sort of sets the stage, you
Yeah.
know, and it shows like the current climate that we're in, and that why we're taking this on. So.
Make a good point, because I actually, when I first read through it, I had sort of my first response was a little bit too much on the political side. But I think just the mere fact that we're doing this is already making a statement as it is. And so the fact we're moving forward, and there's been a lot of things in government, and these DEI efforts in all levels of government should mix. That's what the current political conversation has been like. But the fact that we're doing this has basically made a statement. Might have been worded differently. I think might have just taken a different tack in wording it, but I was okay with sort of, we made the statement, we put our sort of line, and then we're moving forward with that.
Yeah, no, I appreciate everybody's comments. I agree 100%. I think the thing when we got into doing this, I mean, things like this, there's going to be things in this that make us feel uncomfortable, make people feel uncomfortable. But I think that's the whole point of this, is to get out of, you know, we got to face these things head on. And quite frankly, I've read through the same thing. The intro made me a little uncomfortable when I started reading that, because I thought about the same things that you all did. Then I went back to a letter that we got from Brian Thompson after we adopted implemented the inclusionary values, or our strategic priority, play for all equity and inclusion policy. We got a letter as a board that referred to us as being woke, and we should just shut up and focus on parks and not worry about these other political issues. And it pissed me off at the time. And so to me, this is an opportunity to fire back, to say, no, this is about the community. This is what we stand for, and we're going to stand behind it. We're actually going to do stuff about it. So yeah, it makes me feel uncomfortable just to say that you, but I think it's, this is the direction we need to head in. We need to be leaders. We've been leaders since 2017 when we came forward with our policy against hate speech. We followed that up in 2021. This was the logical next step. And, to Quee's point, I think now there's been so much amazing work that's gone into this. Now it's, now we're going to lean on that strength. And then I wish we'd had that whole section when we were doing your review last week, because man, we could have just put that in. But that was amazing. It was nice to see. It's nice because if you don't have that leadership, this doesn't happen. Even if it came from the board, if you weren't on board, that creates a difficulty. So to see how much you've jumped into this and taken this, and quite frankly, taken it and run and even greater than I anticipated, even when we were talking about this at our planning session earlier this year. I mean, this is amazing. So kudos to everybody, staff, consultant, team, board, everybody. I'm stoked about this, but yeah, now it's gonna be some heavy lifting. So I'm excited to see where we go from here. Well, I did have, not to wrap it up on that, but
This
I
is
saw
what
the
you
same,
talked in a year.
I saw the same typo, it was on page 5 of the strategic plan. I remember it. I forgot it last was Makey, at the bottom of page 5.
Yeah.
So I had an extra eye on it. And the action item on, the goal is to measure progress the organization is making towards more diverse. I caught it last time and forgot to mention it. That was it. Thank you.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you. Well, I certainly echo everyone else, but my own appreciation, Melanie, to you, and my appreciation to Michelle for finding you and bringing you to us. This is an incredible document with incredible strategic goals and a vision for where we'd like to take these principles as a public agency, and a very public expression of them as well as the electeds here and the leaders of the community. That this is very important to us to be able to not only express but to undertake as well. And lastly, appreciation to staff. Not only have you reportedly begun many of these steps already, but you've also embraced the very evident workload that this very detailed document is going to present to all of you. And the amount of time and effort and commitment that it will take for all of staff to achieve these goals on behalf of the district. In much the same way that this board approves the budget as a fiscal spending document for the course of the year, and it's you go off and you do these things, and we expect staff to be supportive of the decisions that we make here in terms of spending and income and all of that. This is a similar type of a plan that we're laying out, and the decision this evening to adopt the strategic plan is a communication not only to the public of what we're doing, but that we as an elected board are looking at the one employee that we have to go forth and implement this document and to make sure that you're satisfied that staff is supporting you in your efforts to do all of this. Just as we get quarterly financial reports from our accounting people, I'm really looking forward to the quarterly reports, at least initially, about how we're doing on all of these things. And granular is probably not the right word, but actually it's probably the opposite, in a big picture way about how we're doing on a quarterly basis to move these goals forward. And so I think my message to Michelle, to Melanie, and to staff is that this is what we as a board want to see in our district, and this is what we're asking all of you to commit to and to bring forth and make this happen for us. So it is with that, I'll call for a motion. Sandy?
I'll move that the board adopt the 3-year diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging strategic plan 2023 to 2026.
Any second?
Second.
Thank you, please. Moved and seconded to adopt the strategic plan for diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging for 3 years, the 3-year period. All in favor? Aye. Thank you. 5-0, Susie, on this particular item. Thank you, Rachel.
Thank you, Mel.
Yeah.
And thank you, Nicole and Tom, actually on the DEI committee.
Mhm.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. Thanks for waiting around.
Of course. Appreciate it.
Yeah, fences.
Yeah.
Item 7, verbal report from committee chairs and opportunity to set meeting dates, land and facilities development. We have not set our next meeting, but I wanted to report that we did meet on 2 specific items. There is a need to replace carpeting in the community center, and staff had worked with our architects
Thank you.
and with our architects to, with some recommendations and, Derek and I did meet with staff who presented some concepts, and they're going forward to, get a little bit more additional information, and, then we'll make that decision. Staff will make the ultimate decision about that, but, pleased that it will be guided by our, design consultants to begin with. And secondly, staff presented us with a CIP timeline for the next 12 months, looking at all of our CIP projects and setting forth implementation, preparation, implementation, and completion of those projects within the next 12 months, hopefully. And we'll be bringing back updates about how we're hitting those milestones. So we can really work with staff closely as a committee to work on making sure that we're keeping things rolling down the pipe. So that a couple things will be coming back to us, but we don't have any dates set up yet for that. Personnel or any other committees here have met and want to make a report?
So personnel did meet, and I included that in the report, so.
Bringing it back, you guys get the pleasure of reading.
Yeah, so it's short, right?
They're like, no, it's not, but yeah, so, yeah.
It was.
But I included that information in the journal manager's report, so, and I don't need any other meetings, just to follow up though. The city has gotten back to us on the city district liaison committee, and I sent the 11/7 and 11/14 dates to them, so please hold those.
Okay, I'll put
Two
those in
dates,
calendar.
just hold those in the evening from 5 o'clock on for now, just to hold those, so we are gonna have that in November, so.
Thank you. One date had been the 8th, which would conflict with
I had not heard that, so thank you, Ben.
yeah, well, I got some in the mail with the lighting the tree at the hospital red lights. Thank you.
We'll follow up with them.
Okay, and anything else from any committee chairs? Move on to item 8, board announcements and requests to staff. Bobby.
Yeah, as our new liaison mentioned, will mention the event, but my daughters participated as mini Falcons and was really cool. And I had the opportunity to speak to the girls flag football team Tuesday night, their senior night. It was really exciting and really exciting to what they're doing, and I think it's groundbreaking. And by the way, College Park has an amazing team. They're 4-1 in league right now. They got some amazing players, only 3 seniors. So, I mean, it's pretty cool. You know, with daughters, it's just opening up more opportunities for sports they can play. So I hope more are on the way. And then lastly, I had the opportunity with Chair Bernardo and board member Worst to attend the Contra Costa Mayor's Conference hosted by Pleasant Hill, which I thought was really cool. It was nice to be included, and thought it was a long event, but it was nice to be there. So I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you, Bobby. Derek.
So I too was, at the mayor's conference, and I felt like it was very informative. Also to see, a number of the different cities being represented, and some of the things that they're challenged with. One of the things, suspending public comment was something I hadn't been aware of. That it looks like we're going to be taking that on as well, just temporarily. But
Well, just to clarify, we're not suspending all public comment.
no,
just through the Zoom form. Yeah.
just through the Zoom format, correct? Yeah, and then I participated in the Relay for Life. I really enjoyed doing that for the first time. It was really neat to see the turnout and the type of people who were there, and the people who it touches. I appreciate being a part of that team, so thank you for setting that up. And then looking forward to a couple of upcoming activities. The Special District Leadership Conference is coming up. I think it will be very beneficial for me. And obviously something that I enjoy doing year after year is now the Haunted Trail. So we've got that planned out to have a booth again to participate in that event. So that's about the extent of it.
Very nice. Good. Great.
Yeah, just a couple of things. Thank you, Bobby, for putting the team together. I also participated in the Relay for Life, and thank you for that wonderful conversation as well.
Had a good one, didn't we?
Yeah.
We're talking with Jen too.
Yeah, my wife as well. She enjoyed the conversation, and I'm glad that they were able to raise the money. And then what kind of I couldn't stay for the whole thing, it's just in and out throughout the day. But the ending ceremony was quite moving and nice, and so it was great to see everybody out there and to talk about what they did that day, and then really sort of support each other. So it was wonderful to see. We participated in the pumpkin splash, which was really fun, and the lifeguards actually got activated, which was fun. A little kid fell into the deep end she had a life jacket on, and I think she just wanted to not when she fell in, she probably just jumped in because people were having fun, and as soon as that happened, the lifeguard was just in the water, but probably not even a half a second in there. And so it was a little bit of commotion, but she came out and then jumped into the other pool as soon as she got in the water. So it was quite fun to see that as well, and to see them in action. So that was wonderful. And then also looking forward to the Sonoma event for the special district to learn a few new skills. That's it.
Yeah, good report. Sadie.
I'm glad Lila was here tonight. I think, she's gonna be certainly an asset in her position on the board. I'm looking forward to getting back into hearing updates, what's happening with our high school and teen age residents of Pleasant Hill and other people. And just they've got a lot going on, and they certainly are thinking about a lot of things that I can't imagine all the data input that they get on besides school that they are dealing with nowadays. So I'm looking forward to getting to know her a little bit better. I did participate in Relay for Life remotely. Wasn't quite available to come down to the park. I'm glad it was at the park. That we get to have people doing their walking around Pleasant Hill Park. I think that was something that probably worked out really well. We'll be at Haunted Trail this year. I was remembering that last year it was really, really cold, but I think we looked at at least the forecast for now, it's going to be much warmer than it was last year. So that'll be a fun event. Looking forward to the second session that Chair Bonato and I will be attending for 2 days, I guess.
Sunday through Tuesday.
Sunday afternoon through Tuesday. And it's an excellent conference, and with 4 of us attending, it's going to be we'll come back with all this information. It'll be interesting. But it will be a busy week that week.
Thank you, Mayor's report. I too attended the Contra Costa Mayor's Conference. Michelle and I were unable to, we were at the an earlier event that I'll talk about also. You want to go back on it?
No.
Okay.
I'll let you.
It was the first of our community meetings, and so we had the privilege not only of having that opportunity to experience that, but we also missed the really dry part of the mayor's conference. So we did show up just in time to be acknowledged from back of the room and applauded and all of that. Couldn't have timed it better, Michelle.
We could not.
And I got a perfect parking spot too, because people, a couple people had left by then. That's great. Anyway, it was a very nice event, and it was nice to talk to, at least a little bit in the short time of, that we had to people from other jurisdictions. And it's nice to see representatives of public agencies, blend like that in ways that allow them to not only share thoughts and experiences, but also ideas. And that was very good. It was a pleasure to have it right here in town too. So thank you, Mayor Flaherty, for the invitation. Attended Relay for Life. And I don't know if the participation ramped up later on. I hope that it did. It was pretty warm when we were there, at least initially. It was hot. There was one guy going around the track that he probably lost a quart of water just every time he went around.
Was it 75 laps or something?
Oh, he had a goal. He had a goal, and he was walking for somebody. Anyway, it was a lovely event, just the way that they do it, and I was proud of the park for participating in the, and sponsoring it in the way that we did. So thank you, Michelle, for being their partner in that regard. Let's see, the community event. We had about, 8 members of the public there, I think. And we got some very candid and instructional for us, information back. I think there's a lot of misinformation in the community about a lot of things that we might be dreaming about. So that was eye-opening, and it was just instructive to see that people have very strong opinions and views and desires about what we can produce. So I think we can channel that energy once we have had the opportunity to do more education. So this is really a great opportunity, and I look forward to the next one. I guess it's tomorrow, isn't it, at 1 o'clock, right? Yeah. And then Derek, I know that you're attending a number of them as well, and Queer.
Yeah, wonderful.
One of them. Okay. Anyway, look forward to your reports about what your observations are as well. And then lastly, I too look forward to the Special Districts Leadership Conference and to the I don't know what they call it, the advanced course or phase 2 or whatever.
Year 2.
Year 2?
Yeah,
Okay.
year 2.
Also to have the opportunity in all the downtime to really talk with others that are leaders in special districts. I think you would agree that last year that was a real benefit to spending the time, in that case, up in Santa Rosa. No, Sonoma.
We
last
were in
year.
Napa.
Napa, yeah,
Yeah.
last year. But we met a lot of people and became known as the Sandys, and it was just it was quite a treat to have that opportunity to have that, not only the education part of it, but also the exposure to others who do what we do. So I commend both you and Kui for finding the time in your busy lives to be able to do that training. So we'll stand us on good stead. Thank you for that time. And with that, it is 9. I don't know if I can trust that clock up there. 9:05. You're adjourned. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.